Welcome to Beyond the Boardroom, the podcast for leaders, changemakers, and purpose-driven souls who believe business can be both powerful and human. I'm your host, Jen Demiri, founder of JD Consulting, culture shaper, connection creator, and champion for authentic, connected leadership. Here we go deeper than metrics and meetings. We explore the real stories, raw moments, and bold ideas that shape how we lead and who we become in the process. From workplace culture to conscious strategy, from self-leadership to systems that truly serve, this is where heart meets business. So grab a coffee, take a breath, and join me as we go beyond the boardroom. Welcome back to Beyond the Boardroom, leading with purpose and connection. Today's conversation sits at the intersection of leadership, service, and impact, and challenges how we think about philanthropy in today's world. I'm joined by Dr. Janelle Thompson, a nurse and anesthesiologist, entrepreneur, wellness advocate, and board member of the 144K Collective, a purpose-driven organization focused on community resilience, empowerment, and large-scale philanthropic impact. With more than 20 years of clinical experience, Dr. Janelle brings a deeply human lens to leadership. Her career spans trauma ICU nursing, advanced anesthesia practice, journalism, entrepreneurship, and coaching for high-performing women and healthcare professionals, navigating burnout and growth. But what makes this conversation particularly relevant right now is her work in philanthropy. Through her role with the 144K Collective, JT is part of a growing movement that is redefining what giving looks like, shifting away from intention and towards measurable impact, accountability, and real outcomes. Today, we'll explore how younger generations of philanthropists are no longer satisfied with promises. They want to see change, and how leaders, particularly those on the front lines in healthcare and business, can play a critical role in shaping new models of collective action. This is a conversation about responsibility, impact, and what leadership looks like when it moves beyond words and into action. Let's dive in. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. For all the listeners, so you are still a day behind where I am today because
Yes.
you are dialing in from the US. So thank you so much for creating the time and space to be here today.
Same. Thank you for waking up for me.
Absolutely. It's not that early. So, Dr. J, your career spans clinical care, entrepreneurship, coaching, and now philanthropy. What thread connects all of these for you?
The thread that's common between all of them, I believe, is just the desire to help. Since I was very young, I wasn't sure which path I was going to take. However, over the course of the years, I got into nursing. That was kind of the foundation of everything. As a kid, you help around the house and you help at school and you help your teachers and everything. But once I started actually looking for a career field, it's the one that resonated the most with my character and my values was being able to help people. And then from there, everything else has just grown out of that, from the entrepreneurship aspect to now the philanthropy. Every bit of that has been with the foundation of helping someone or helping someone's.
Okay, great. And what specifically did you sort of think or aligns most with your character, with your values? Like what specifically, especially in that nursing space, was it that called you?
The ability to really care for people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we've heard stories of um, people who get into different fields for the money, and you can always tell who they are. They might have great skills, but something isn't quite right, and we can see that in every field, whether it's engineering, whether it's medicine, whether it's architecture, design, whatever the case may be. The people who are really in it for the love of that thing, you can always tell. And so one of the key aspects of nursing that really resonates with me is the ability to care for people. People, by the time they need a nurse, are usually kind of bad off, kind of on the low end, and are very vulnerable. And so when you have the ability to care for someone when they're in a space where they may not know what's going on, they may not have the resources, and you are the person that they turn to, that aspect of being a caregiver really resonated for me. In addition to that, um, just being able to be responsible. Um, so, not just an advocate for patients, but also to be that responsible party in their care, whether it was discussing the care plan with the multidisciplinary team or talking to their family and explaining what was actually happening with them. Um, the responsibility that kind of sits on your shoulders with something like that. It's kind of things I live for. I'm kind of a control freak. So being able to that's why I actually got an anesthesia. Don't tell anybody. Because I'm kind of a control freak. So it fit the most of my personality. I think that's part of the question too. We'll put that aside somewhere. But yeah, caring, the ability to have responsibility for people and their well-being, being able to educate people um, with regard to their choices, with regards to what's happening with them, options, how to get from point A to B. So a plan, a path, all of those things really resonated with me. And so nursing really worked out well for that.
I do want to stay with this for a little bit because you were talking about the responsibility and the education and things like that. There is this component of people trust a lot in their doctors, which of course doctors have studied for a very long time, so do nurses. And there is just this very different shift in responsibility, or the different layer and responsibility between nurses and doctors that, let's say, that that you have surgeries with or things like that. Tell me a little bit more about that difference. And I mean, from what I know is at the end of the day, nurses actually have a bigger responsibility, considering having to know all the medications and measurements of medications, which is often actually a lot harder than, I mean, I'm not saying that surgery isn't hard, but at the end of the
Right.
day,
It is.
it
It's hard.
starts and finishes. It starts and finishes in like a sort of a compact way, or like in a very fine, well, in a very short time period. While I guess the nursing component is a lot longer standing with the same patient, and overall you have to, I mean, although it's written down, you have to remember so many different medications for so many different patients and things like that. I feel especially nurses are very undervalued in what they do. Tell me a little bit about your experience in that space.
Well, I do agree that nurses are very undervalued. It's a challenge we've been dealing with probably since, I guess, the quote unquote beginning of nursing. However, I do just want to start and just say that, the practice of nursing and the practice of medicine are two very different disciplines. So even the education and the training that goes along with that looks very different. And we function well within that when everyone is playing their role, when everyone is doing their part. Um, so I also want to say that there are a lot of doctors who are nurses. We are not physicians, though. So we had talked about the credential before, So I want to give credit to all my DNPs, my doctor of nursing practice, and my doctor of nurse anesthesia practice. We are not physicians. We are doctors, though. We earned that. So. But as far as nursing goes, the foundation of bedside nursing, which is what most people are familiar with, is we are the ones who are around the patient between 12 to 16 hours a day, 3 or 4 times a week, generally speaking, when you're looking at a floor nurse. There aren't very many systems anymore, I don't believe, that run 8-hour shifts. They're usually 12 hours, and you do 3 12s, and if you pick up your overtime, and you've got that. And for continuity of care, the nurse managers do their best to keep the same nurses with the same patients so that the families know them, the patients know them, and all of that. So when you look at in that perspective, the nurses spend much more time with the patient and the family than the physicians do. And that's just because we have the time to do that. The physicians are rounding, or they may be in surgery, or they may be in clinic. Like I said, the practice of medicine and the practice of nursing are very different things. However, with that being said, we have much more time to spend with the family and to spend with the patient. And that is why education is one of the fundamental tenets of nursing. You have to understand the disease processes. You have to understand how nutrition plays a part in this. You have to understand how activity manifests, or lack of activity manifests, in this way. So when you go home, these are your discharge instructions, and these are the things that you need to do. And I'm not telling you what to do, but if I were you, I would go home and do X, Y, Z, and then here are your instructions. So it's kind of multifaceted. You also get to spend a lot of time with the family, which can make those educational recommendations sit a little nicer, because you've been spending some time with the family, and the family has seen how you've cared for their loved one, and so they're more receptive when you're starting to give them some education. And many times, patients and their families have no idea what's going on, so it's a really good time, in the time that you have, to really educate them on what's going on. And sometimes to be an advocate for them, because sometimes patients come in with no family. Sometimes patients come in and their family are terrified. Sometimes their patients come in and they're misinformed. So there's all kinds of things. And sometimes we have a better take on what the patient actually wants, but may be afraid to say. And so we are sometimes that last line between a patient getting a procedure or a medication or something that they actually don't want, but are too scared to tell the physician. Because even today, the way that the traditional allopathic healthcare system is set up is the physician is here and the patient is here. They're not on equal footing. It's kind of the parent telling the child what to do. It's not a partnership model. There are more physicians coming around to that, which is great to see. But generally speaking, it's nope, you need this surgery, or nope, you need this medication, or nope, you need to do this. Okay, I'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah.
And we see how that works.
Yeah, right. So you were also talking about the responsibility, especially in anesthesia. So you have been working in trauma ICU and anesthesia. You've seen people at their most vulnerable, as you just mentioned. How has that shaped your perspective on leadership and service?
We can start way back in 2001. Oh, wow, that was a long time ago. When I was in the ICU.
It is.
Wow, that was a long, wow, Jen. Okay, all right, so 2001, I'm in the neurosurgical trauma ICU at a hospital, well-known hospital in California. Brand new nurse, baby nurse, and just kind of seeing it all. It was a really great experience, because I was getting primed to go to school, to go to anesthesia school. Patients were sick, very, very sick. And because of a violent encounter years before I got there, the unit was a lockdown unit by the time I got there. So big magnetic doors that you had to have special key cards to get in. Visiting hours were only 15 minutes each. You had 4 visiting hours a day, which meant the families were very, very stressed out. The staff was very, very stressed out because the family couldn't come in and we had to keep them out because the patients were so sick, and it was such a, delicate balance. And so from there, I actually had a really great nurse manager in that unit, and I was able to see how she was able to balance the different things, the needs of the surgeons, the needs of the residents, the needs of the families. And that's kind of where I started paying attention to someone who was doing what they said and not just saying what to do. That's kind of
Mhm.
where it started at first. Once
Yeah.
I got into anesthesia, um, I actually I saw the opposite when I first started working as a nurse anesthesiologist. I saw very poor leadership, and I was very disenfranchised when I got out of school and I started working, and I wasn't quite sure what to do.
Mhm.
Actually, my second day on the job, I realized, I said, I hate this. I don't know why I took all this time and all this money. I was staring at the list of patients for the day and I was like, why did I do this? This is awful. And here I am 20, however many years later, still doing anesthesia. I don't hate it. It was just a bad time. But I think that the problem that I saw early was poor leadership, and that put a really sour taste in my mouth from early on, and it actually started to push me into my wellness arena and to being an entrepreneur. um, I only lasted as an employee for 10 months, 9 months, I guess. In my 10th month I became an independent contractor, and I never worked for a company ever again. I was my own boss at that point, and I was getting contracts all over Houston at that time, and then all over Texas later, and then all over the United States after that. Um, and in the midst of that journey, I started to see things that did work, things that didn't work. And you may know also when you're in school, people tell you, use what I'm teaching you, take what works and leave what doesn't. And that's been one of the biggest leadership lessons that I've learned as I've been watching other people and being mentored by people is take what works and leave what doesn't, and then turn it into something that you can use. And so, with that responsibility, it's translated into the operating room. We are the people at the head of the bed. And I tell my students, even if things are hitting the fan, you have to look like a duck when it's swimming on the water. It's totally calm on top, and the feet are flittering like that on the bottom, but nobody can see it. Okay, you are straight face, you are deadpan, because in the operating room, Jen, many people don't know this. Like the surgeon is doing their thing, but if the patient starts to go downhill, everyone is looking to anesthesia. What are we doing? What's the next step? What do you need? Because they need to do whatever they're doing in the operative site, but we have to keep the patient alive, and we work very, very close in tandem. But if we start freaking out, then the whole room starts freaking out. And that is not a good thing. That is not the place where you want to be. So we're not allowed to freak out in the room. We can freak out later because we are one of the leaders of that team, and if one of your leaders is spazzing, then the rest of the team is going to fall apart very shortly. So I have learned how to have a great poker face. I have learned how to handle pressure very, very well, deadlines very, very well, um, and how to be grateful. I've seen so many horrible things and so many blessings, sometimes in the same day, sometimes in the same case. And so that responsibility also even goes through there, just to remind people to have a sense of gratitude, a spirit of gratitude, because you just never know. I mean, we're here today, we're talking, we're on two different continents, we're sharing this conversation. Families are healthy and well, and there's so many things to be grateful for, even in the midst of chaos. And I think that great leaders are able to show their team that even in the midst of chaos, there's always something to be grateful.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I love the part about, okay, in an operating room, everyone looks at you. In a crisis, everyone looks at the leader. And if the leader freaks out, then there's not much trust or belief in things are going to happen. So it is important, even when there is a stressful situation, to just remain as calm as you possibly can. And then you can go and have your cry in the shower afterwards when everything's over.
Exactly. Exactly. I have to be careful actually when I come home, not to bring that persona. I have to switch who I'm being. Like I'm one person at the hospital and I'm one person at home, because sometimes, you can detach too much, you can compartmentalize too much. And we've had to learn how to do that because, like we said, in trauma, and you see a lot. And if you broke down every time you saw a heartbreaking story, you just wouldn't survive. So compartmentalization is one of our best skills, and it's one of our biggest complaints generally from our families is that we can be so closed off, just boxed in because that's how we've learned how to function. So it is a blessing and a curse. And I know for me, and I know for many of my colleagues, it's something that we struggle with, and we work very hard to be present, when we're at home, and not to put everything into a box, because life gets tricky that way when everything gets put into a box.
Yeah. Well, I would love to know at least 1 to 2 tips or tricks then on how you shift gear from that hospital persona to the home persona. Do you have like
Okay,
one or two
I'll, I'll,
tips?
I'll give you, I've got many, but I'll give you my top two. um, Now, the first one usually happens on my way home and also happens after I get home. Once I get in the car, many times there's no music. It's just quiet because in the operating room, it's noise all the time. It's white noise, it's idle chatter, it's equipment, it's all kinds of things. Like this is this is how bad it is. I was in a case one day some years ago, and there's music playing, there's people talking, there's equipment going, there's suction going, and then all of a sudden some piece of equipment shut off. And the whole room knew that something was different. And the whole room was still loud, but that
Mm,
one piece of equipment turned off and everybody was like, "What was that?" And in a normal environment, people are like, do, 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 do. But everyone in that room was like, nope, something's different, even in the midst of all the noise. So when I'm driving home, most of the time it's quiet so that I can just have some time to kind of clear out my head. Um, my family doesn't generally like it all the time, but they understand now that when I come home, I don't generally have a whole lot to say. I'm just trying to decompress and have a few minutes of quiet so that my head can clear. So that is one thing that I do. In the midst of the quiet is breathing. Um, One of our biggest stress responses as human beings is taking these shallow, cheap little breaths when we're in the middle of a stressful situation. And so at the end of my day, whatever that day has looked like, and even sometimes, actually many times during the day, I stop and I make myself take some deep breaths just to kind of cleanse it out, get my lungs going again. And it actually starts to refocus me on whatever it is that that next task is. So when I'm coming home, it's very important for me to do that intentionally so that I can kind of clear the space and clear the day and be present back at home. The second thing is either a shower or a bath, sometimes both. And that is one of the wellness hacks that I have is just a visualization of washing everything away from the day. Being able to be cleansed from the energy, from the people, from the experiences, watching it all go down the drain and having a clean slate to start with my family. So sometimes I need to soak it off. sometimes, sometimes a shower is okay. But a nice long bath, I think, is great for everybody. Everybody needs one of those. So yeah, those are two of the main ones that I
yeah.
utilize.
And I definitely have to say they are my two favorites. That's what I revert back to when I'm on all day and then come
Yeah,
home and just get to change my persona as well. And while it's still the same, it's also different. So
yeah,
really, yeah, focusing back on me and the presence. And yeah, they are my two favorites as well. Yeah, I
great.
love
Love
that.
to hear that.
Thank you for that. Now, I want to change gear a little bit more into that philanthropy. So, in one of our conversations, you said that younger philanthropists want results, not just promises. So, what's broken in the traditional model?
Oh my gosh, the traditional model says, and I say that word loosely, but the traditional model says that you need lots of money to be able to get into the philanthropy game. Okay.
Mhm.
It also says that you have to take people at their word for where they're saying that the money is going or who they're helping. Those are two fundamental challenges that we hear all the time from our younger counterparts and our older counterparts is that there's no transparency with the giving. and that I don't have $5,000 or $10,000 or $1 million, to go and help somebody. If I knew that this $10 or $20 that I was going to give would actually be guaranteed to help somebody, then I would probably give my $10 or $20. But I don't know if my $10 or $20 is going to help somebody, and I don't have $10,000 to buy a table to a gala. So, how am I able to help? And that's where the 144K Collective actually comes in. It's a great segue. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
We,
It was the plan all
yeah.
along.
You know, our plan has been, and this is over 30 years in the making now, but
Hmm.
the plan for the 144K Collective has been to democratize giving and show people that you do not need a lot to be able to help a lot. And what we mean by that is if um, a lot of people do a little bit, then you have more power than anything that you could do by yourself. So our model is $1 a day for all of our partners, and the goal is to have 144,000 partners. So, if you could just do the quick math on that, by the time we have all of our partners enrolled, that would be $144,000 a day that would be available to help people, with everyone just contributing $1 a day. And that's how you show the power in numbers. Okay. So instead of one person giving $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, you get a lot of people. You get the crowd involved to do $1 a day. And you could be amazed at what that can do. And then you have the transparency portion, because it's not a membership. We are our actual partners in this business venture. We are a for-profit philanthropic organization, which kind of throws people off because how can you be for-profit and be a philanthropic organization? And that's because we are looking to promote the message of um, socially responsible capitalism,
Hmm.
which means that you can make money and you can help people. Those two do not have to be mutually exclusive. They can exist together. And so that's actually part of where the transparency comes in because, like I said, every one of us are partners in our organization. And so, because you're a partner, there's complete transparency. All of our partners can see the books, so they know exactly where the money went to help people. They know exactly what was happening in the board meeting. So, like if you donate to the Red Cross or to the United Way, all those things sound good, but you have no idea where your money's going. You have no idea where your $20 or your $50 or your $100 went because you're not a partner. You're not entitled to see the books. You have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. And just from a business backdoor perspective, most philanthropic organizations are operating at about 60 to 70% margin on a good day, which means that of all the donations that they receive, about 60% is actually going to the place that they say it's going to. There are some places that are much less than that. There are some places that are hovering towards 70. It's just hard to tell who's who. Um, our business model, and again, we're for profit, 90% of our profit that comes into the company goes into helping people. So we're only working on a 10% margin. And like I said, because you're a partner, you can see all the books, you can see where all the money's going. So that's one of the biggest differences. But again, we're showing that how every partner with just $1 a day is able to help somebody. Even as we grow, as we're hitting these developmental milestones in our partnership numbers, we're able to help more people. We've been able to, there was a police officer who was wrongfully terminated, and because of that, lost all of his benefits, didn't have a job, all these different things. We were able to get him some gigs out in Dallas. He was actually our first, I will say, we're here to help initiative. We gifted him with a few $1,000s to help him get back onto his feet. We've done events called Can You Make Me Laugh, where we find random people on the street, and as long as they try, they don't have to actually make somebody laugh because some of these jokes are really bad. But as long as they tried, as long as they tried, they walked away with some money. If they were able to get to the toughest person, so it was like 3 rounds. If they were able to get to the toughest person, they walked away with like $100 or $200 or something like that. But even if they just tried, and that's just like It was, we were on the University of Texas campus in Austin. And when it first started, it was kind of slow. It's in the middle of the day. By the time we were ending, it was about 4 or 5 o'clock, and there was this huge crowd of people around us just having fun and talking. And I remember people saying, because, you're on the streets in Austin, it's a big city, and there were homeless people there talking to the college kids, talking to professors, talking to professional people, talking to hotel guests. And one person said, I would have never spoken to these people if you weren't here today. Like, I would have never taken the time out of my day. One of the young ladies told us she was going to be able to pay her rent with the money that she got that day. Um, We've done gas giveaways where we pop up at random gas stations and just give away gas. And we've had more than one person say, I didn't know how I was going to get to work today. I just needed to get to the gas station. And you all were here today. We had no idea, so doesn't always have to be something big. We are working on some very big things. We launched our first for-profit initiative last year called iMused.ai. It is the first ethical musical creation platform out where the artists whose influence is used actually get paid for their influence. So that's another way that we're helping people, where these artists are generally, they have their influences taken and used and milked and, all of that, and they don't get a penny off of it. But now they're actually able to get paid, whether they know the song was made or not, which is wonderful. Just the fact that their influence was used. We're going to be doing scholarships. We're going to be doing lots of big things. 3 of our board members are now um, on the steering committee, on the governing committee for the Next 10 Summit in Africa. And so we're helping people over there. We're doing lots of creative things and on the way to 144,000 partners.
That's awesome. And I really love that initiative. And also, as you were saying earlier, based on the margins, I mean, there's so many non-for-profit organizations where they still have to pay the staff that work for them. So at the end of the day, yes, is all the money that is raised going to where they think it's going? No, because yes, administrative staff, all that sort of still needs to be paid. And we don't actually know how much is going to where we want it to go. And I agree with you on the fact that philanthropy doesn't, doing good doesn't mean you can't make money, because you also can put that money that you're making back into, creating more and different things and
Yes,
helping more
exactly.
people in the long run. And what I often see as well, a lot of non-for-profit organizations are not run like a business, which is often
Sadly,
to their
yeah.
detriment in the long run. It might work for a little while, but in the long run, they're also not able to scale and then get more money for what they actually want to achieve, because it is done in a bit more of a casual way, I guess, rather than having certain goals and then working towards those goals and having that business minded head on in those non-for-profits.
Yeah. Well, another thing that holds nonprofits back, and this is just a matter of structure, they have to declare who they're helping. So they have to have a niche. So they're helping the homeless, or they're helping students, or they're helping Native Americans, or they're helping swimmers, or they're helping, whatever. They have to declare who this group of people is that they're helping, and that's it. When as a for-profit entity, you can help whoever you want because you're a
Yeah.
business, but just legally in the way that you have to file as a 501c3, you have to determine and declare, might be a better word, declare what the population is that you intend to help. And so you lose a lot of your donor base simply because they might not resonate with your message, you know? So by being able to help everyone, that means everyone can help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, we love it. We are having fun disrupting the philanthropic game.
And I can see that you love it, because your face just starts to lighten up. I mean, it did already when you were talking about the nursing space, but just now, it was just even brighter. So it definitely shows that you
We
love what
love
you do.
it. Yeah, this is my partner's life work, and he's been, like I said, over 30 years in developing it. We've done multiple feasibility studies and micro enterprises to see exactly how things could fit together and how many industries it can work in. And when people get it, they get it. Many people think that it's too simple. That is one one of the pain points, which is kind of funny because they keep saying, "Well, how can you do it for $1 a day?" Well, it's $1 a day with a lot of people, So, um, but we do have, speaking to your point from earlier with the younger generations, we do have college students who are part of the organization because, again, it's only $28 every 28 days. It's $1 a day. And when you look at what you spend on McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever the case may be, you're spending way more than that. And the college kids are like, yeah, this actually makes sense. So once you can get past the cognitive dissonance of people trying to wrap their head around how $1 a day can actually help, it's not the dollar a day, it's the crowd, it's the community, it's the collaborative efforts. It's not just one person doing this thing. As many of people as we can get together to help one another, that's how we'll help other people. And once they get past the dissonance of that, it's a wrap. Everybody's like, yep, I can see it, this makes sense.
Yeah. So on that, and you probably already answered part of that, what role does community play in creating sustainable change versus like a top-down solution?
Oh man, community is the backbone of everything. When people can not only know that they belong to a community, but they can feel that they belong to a community. And even the most rational of us um, know when we feel something down in our souls. And so, whenever you have a community that you feel that you're part of, whatever that community may be, there's always more buy in into making that community better. How can we support this cause for these people to make all of us better? Because we're all focused on the same thing. Our goal is all looking in the same direction. And so when you not only have the same goal, but you have the support around you because the people around you are like minded, you guys have the same thought processes and the same values and the same goals. When you have that sense of community, that is the foundation, that's the floor. That's what holds everything else up, and that's what keeps everything steady and sturdy. And even when the winds start to blow and things start to change and things don't go according to plan, that community is what is actually holding everything together. I think that's the biggest part of everything. So even with the 144K collective, the community is the thing. You have all the different kinds of people from different walks of life focused on helping each other. We're in different parts of the world. We actually have a partner in Australia, in
It's
different
not
parts of the
me.
United States, right? Shameless plug for your neighbor. Um, but yeah, when you're focused on a common goal and you know that you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about doing the same thing, might be in a different way, but you're thinking of doing the same thing, then you always know that there is a place where you can go to that's safe for you. And so I think community is huge.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with that. It's the connection. I keep saying in a world that where we should be more connected than ever, we're the most disconnected and
Yes.
also very often very disconnected from ourselves. So having that connection, having the community, having people there that have your back, no matter if things are going well or if things are a little bit more challenging, having the people there to support you in one way or another is just the most important thing.
Yeah. Another thing that comes with the community, like you were saying with the support, is also the accountability that
Yeah.
comes along with that. There's there's a saying that we have out here amongst the ladies where we will will be like, your slip is showing. Like, calm down, go fix your slip, go pull your slip up, take some time and get yourself together because we see you.
Green
Go
thing
fix
between your
that.
teeth that no one tells you about.
Right, right. People need to be able to hold you accountable, and you need to hold them accountable, and all of those things. And that's also what a community who is like-minded does for each other. And I think that's just as important as all the other things.
Yeah. So, following on from that, what does impact actually look like beyond good intentions?
Beyond good intentions, impact is action. You
Mm.
can't just say that you would like to do this or tell somebody else. We have another phrase called a pointer outer. Don't be a pointer outer, be a doer. Because you can stand over here and point and say, you should be doing it this way and you should be doing it that way, but it doesn't matter if you're not actually doing anything. And so when you're talking about impact, and the kind of impact that you can have on lives and the kind of impact that we have had on lives already in the collective, it's about the doing. It's not just about the plans and the formulations and the tests. It's about actually going out there and getting dirty and doing the work and seeing the result of what you have done, and also recognizing that you're not always going to see the immediate benefit of the help that you've given, and that it should just be enough to know that you have helped. you know um, that's that's what impact, I think, means to us, in a world, Jen, where everybody wants something right away.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful and deliberate in how you go about things, because we're talking about meaningful change and lasting change and impacts that you never know might go through generations just from one gesture that you did today. And so if we just sat around at our board meetings and said, okay, well, we should do this and we should help these people and we should put this money here. All right, see you next week. But we never actually went out and did the work, then we would have no impact. We would just have a lot of Zoom minutes and AI notes and, all this other kind of stuff to say that we met and that we were all present and we had a quorum and we did all of these beautiful, pretty things. And we wouldn't have helped anybody. But at the end of the day, we're not here to be pointer outers. We are here to be doers. And when we're telling people that we are changing the game in philanthropy, I mean, we mean it. We're here to help anybody, even if you, quote unquote, you don't think that this person needs help. Like, who are you to say who needs help? They might not need the help, but they might be able to pay it forward and help someone else.
Yeah.
So who's to say that I shouldn't help them?
Yeah. I love that. And tagging on from that, do you think some organizations hide behind purpose without actually delivering real outcomes?
Oh man, you're trying to get me in trouble. Okay. Yes, I do. Um,
Look,
I
I'm
okay.
getting myself in trouble now. I believe that too.
Okay, so I think the answer to that is twofold. I think that there are some organizations that could do more,
Hmm.
and that may not be living up to their optimal functioning in their niche. I think there are also others who are tied behind red tape, maybe three prong, not two. So tied behind red tape and how they're structured and they're only allowed to do certain things. And then other ones, which you alluded to earlier, just actually don't have the knowledge of how to run a nonprofit or even a for-profit business. There are so many good people out there who just want to help and
Mm.
think that they need to have a nonprofit to do it and have no idea how to run a nonprofit. And they do their best and they beg for money and they do their best and they beg for money and they do their best and they can only do what they can do. And that's simply because they don't know. And on a good day, they may come in, contact with someone who can really help them or mentor them or give them some resources. But most people are just like, I'll say, quote unquote, regular people, from the neighborhood who start a nonprofit because they see a need and they say, okay, this is what people say you're supposed to do when you want to help people. You form a nonprofit, you beg for money, and you help people. So I'm going to
Yeah.
start a nonprofit. I'm going to beg for money and I'm going to help people. And that's simply just a lack of knowledge. Um, any business run correctly is a lot of work. So when you have a business that the basis of is going to find donors, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of work. And I don't know that most people understand how hard it is to go out there and solicit donations for a cause. Because again, there's so many causes.
Yeah.
All of these nonprofits are for different things, and everyone can't put their money everywhere, right? But you can do $1 a day and help a whole lot of people. See what I did there? But yeah, in truth, I do think that there are organizations who could do more. I do think that there are some who kind of have their hands tied behind their back, and then I think that there are some that they just don't know. They're doing their best, they just don't know.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you on that. And yes, sometimes is you're doing the best you can with the resources you have, and that probably covers the whole red tape conversation or not knowing any better. And yeah, uh, I agree. And some, yes, can definitely do better. Um, so there's a lot of talk about individual leadership, but this is about the collective and collective action. So, what does it actually require to come together as a collective and lead as a collective rather than the individual?
Well, you have to be focused on the same thing. So, our motto is we're here to help. And the cool thing about how the collective works is that we are community advocates, we're entrepreneurs, we're influencers, all kinds of different people in different communities who are leaders in their communities. And I'll even say leaders in their circle because they may not be a community leader, but amongst their family, amongst their friends, they're the kinds of people that their peers look up to. And so they have influence within that sphere. When you're able to bring people from different walks of life and different places and different times together, focused on the one goal of helping people, that's how you're able to cultivate leadership amongst your group because the goal is the same. And so in my community, help may look like this. And in your community, help may look like that. And because you're over there, you're able to tell us how people need help. And because I'm over here, I'm able to tell you how people need help, and so on and so forth. And in the midst of that, because of how our partners are able to talk and collaborate and get to know each other, you're able to see who resonates with who. So you may like be a continent away or some states away, but you realize that one of the partners here is doing something that you really resonate with. And so now you can get together with that partner and start to share influence in that particular thing. And it's all a part of the collective because we share a collective brand. We are the collective. And so if I'm here and I am donating free anesthesia, our other 144K partners can say, you know what, I'm one of the partners in 144K collective, and today we donated 2 rounds of anesthesia for 2 different patients.
Hmm.
They never touched a patient, but because they're a part of the collective, they're able to say what we did as a collective. On another note, like the police officer I mentioned at the beginning of our talk, there were only a few of us involved with that, but all of our partners, because they are part of this collective, can say, we helped this police officer. We can all say, we helped that young lady pay her rent. We can all say, we bought groceries for this one person because we're a part of the collective. We have the same mindset. We share the same brand. We have the same mission. We did that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, why do you think it's so hard for some organizations or leaders to collaborate rather than operate in silos? Why do you believe for so many it's so hard to go into a collective?
I think one of the biggest challenges that human beings face is the need to be collective and the need to be in charge, which, um, when you're looking to get a lot of people to work together, you have to be unified under the one vision, whatever that vision is. And one of the biggest challenges generally, I think, with humanity, and it's male and female, is knowing who to trust with the responsibility and handing over that trust that they will do the right thing. There are a lot of people who want to be the person in charge. There are a lot of people who want to be the person in control. And if they can't be in control of their surroundings and control of their business and control of the organization, they just don't want to do it. And that's fine. We acknowledge that those people exist and this isn't for them. Um, and that's just the way of life. You know what I mean? And like I told you at the beginning, I'm a control freak. I don't know everything about this business though. You know what I mean? I know when to give that trust over. I know when, you know, to get with other smart people in the room and we can be smart together. Not everybody has that gene in their in their DNA makeup. So while I do joke about it, I absolutely know when to um, let the people run the business, whatever that business may be, who need to run the business. And I do what I'm very good at, and you do what you're very good at, and they do what they're very good at. And like our board is comprised of many people from many backgrounds contributing different things to the organization, um, again, with the common focus. So I think when you have the people who are just focused on the goal and on the mission, then it really doesn't matter, for lack of a better phrase, if you're in charge or not. You just want the work to get done. And that's the problem I think that you're kind of alluding to in your question is what stops other people from being able to do things like this is it I mean really everybody isn't cut out for it. It's not for everybody. Some people need to be the head of whatever it is that they're doing. And that's fine. Be great over there. But we need people who want to help and who know how to work together as a collective, because as a collective you can do just about anything that you set your mind to, whether it's financially, whether it's relationship wise, whether it's politically. We see it all the time. Look at these lobbyist groups that go and they take over, whatever political organization it is. They've got groups of them that are going after the money or after the bill. You've got school boards and you've got all these different, pockets of people that when they work together, that's what a union is. When they work together, they're working towards the betterment of whatever XYZ thing. I'm not pro union or against union or anything like that. I'm trying to think of examples on the fly of people working together. Sports teams are probably the best analogy that I could give to people collaborating and people forming a community and people working towards a common goal, and having friendly competition while they're doing it. All the other teams are doing the same thing and they're trying to beat up on each other and win the next week and all that stuff. But each week they're working to get each other to be better. It's one of the phrases that I live by: be better than yesterday. You need a collective group of people who are working and walking down the street together to be able to do that.
Yeah, great. So, for leaders listening, how can they start contributing to meaningful impact beyond their immediate business outcomes?
I think the first thing that you've got to do is make sure that you're leading and not bossing, which sometimes um, gets a little tricky depending on the niche, on the environment, and on the people that you're working with. Because sometimes we feel like we're working with children, right? and you have to kind of step out of that. I saw you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sometimes you have
Everyone
to
will
step
see
out of
it.
yeah. And so as a leader, you've got to take a step back and say, okay, these are not children, these are adults. How do I need to engage this situation to get the response that I want? even if it's not how I would normally react or normally respond. Because at the end of the day, you want the response that you need to propel whatever it is that you're doing forward. And so if you're just bossing people around, it's probably not going to work real well. But if people can see that you're walking the talk and you're doing the things that are necessary and you're putting in the hours, you're putting in the work, um, that is one of the first ways that leaders can start to do that. In addition to that, I think laying down very clear goals and milestones and keeping the path as clear as possible, but being as adaptable as necessary. You can't, you will not win, number one, if you don't know where you're going and if you don't have contingencies. So, a good example is if you're driving from California to New York, okay, uh, or one side of Australia to the other side.
Yes,
I
pretty
have
much.
no idea what cities are over there, but from California to New York, okay. Well, or let's say Texas, because Texas we're kind of in the middle of the United States. Let's say we're going to go from Texas to New York, and let's say we have a path, we have our map, and we have our points drawn out, and we know where we're going to stop for gas, and we know where we're going to eat, and all these different things. But instead of starting out east, we go west. Well, we're not even headed in the right direction. So we're
No.
already starting off wrong, right? Okay. So that's one thing. You got to head in the right direction. And you have to know which direction that is and be clear with your team on what the direction is. Number two, when you're going on that road from Texas to New York, you don't know what bridges are closed for construction. You don't know where a blizzard might have come about and now the roads are closed. You don't know where an accident happened, but your GPS will always reroute you, right? Like you're still going towards New York. As long as you keep going, you're going to reach New York. Like the odds of success are 100% as long as you keep going. If
Yeah.
you turn around and go west, you're never going to get to New York. If you stop going because there's an accident on the road, you're not going to reach New York. But as long as you keep going and you make the changes that are necessary, then you'll get to New York. You know, you've got to stay the course, be a cheerleader, be a counselor, uh, be a judge, and be just. You know, that is one of the biggest things a leader has to learn how to do is how to be just. Um, I was. Are you familiar with American football and the Dallas Cowboys?
I've heard of them, yes.
Okay, so Dallas Cowboys, very famous franchise um, in Dallas, Texas, and one of their most famous coaches was Jimmy Johnson. And I was watching a clip of his the other day, and I think it's so relevant because it was talking about fairness and equality. And so Troy Aikman was like his best quarterback ever, and they had all these winning seasons, all these star athletes. And there was a day in practice, he said, it was a special teams meeting, and there's a guy who was sitting in the back and he was sleeping. And he said he fired him on the spot and he never played another day of football. And people were getting on him and they were like, how could you just fire him? And they said, well, it's clear that he wasn't engaged in what we were doing. And it turns out that he had been late to practices. He had been messing up in games. He'd been doing all kinds of bad things. And then he had the audacity to fall asleep in a meeting. So it wasn't just that. But someone asked, well, what if Troy Aikman would have fallen asleep in the meeting? And he said, oh, that was simple. I would have walked up to him and I would have tapped him and I said, Troy, would you like some coffee? And so his whole point was, you know, number one, there's layers to this thing, but I will treat everyone the same and I will treat everyone differently. So it's based on your movement in the company, how you're treating your fellow employees. Are you meeting deadlines? Are you doing what we're asking of you or are we not? And even in that, there's layers. And so being just does not mean being equal. And that's That's a lesson I think a lot of leaders struggle with, because sometimes we try to treat everyone the same, even though it's not warranted. And that's where you disenfranchise, quote unquote, your star players. And we see this over and over and over. I'm doing all this work and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and that person doesn't do anything, and we're treated the same. That's where you start to lose good people, you know? So I think those are some of the starting points I
Yeah,
would give to leaders listening.
yeah. And I really love this analogy, and I agree with it. There's this meme out there where this teacher, like it's an image with a lot of different animals sitting in front of the teacher, like a giraffe, an elephant, a dog, a cat, a monkey, and the exam is to climb a tree because everyone needs to be treated equal, right? So the exam is the same for everyone. Well, of course, the monkey is going to be able to climb the tree, while the elephant, very unlikely to climb the tree. So that's where this whole thing is like treat everyone equal but different is
Mm-hmm.
is coming in, because
Yeah.
everyone has different ways of learning, everyone has different ways of showing up, as long as they show up.
Yes. You can get to New York.
Exactly. But if you're late, if you're not meeting your deadlines, and then you fall asleep in a meeting, it's absolutely different to performing every day, exceeding expectations, and then falling asleep in a meeting because you're probably exhausted
Absolutely.
from all the
Right.
doing things. So yes, I completely get that point. And when I was a leader at one point, I was in a situation where I was told, well, you're not treating everyone the same. And I'm like, I am and I'm not. And I gave that example, and it really got them thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
then I gave my team that example as well. And that's
Yeah.
when they were like, oh, yeah, she's actually right, because not all of us
Mm-hmm.
are the same in that way.
Right. I think it's one of the hardest lessons as a human being that you have to like actually accept about yourself, is that you want, many times we want to be able to treat someone like we feel they deserve, but we don't think that people should treat us like we deserve, you know? And so my goal in life is to be indispensable wherever I go. Like wherever I am, if I'm gone, you're like, oh my God, where is she? that is that is my goal. You are gonna miss me when I'm gone, whether it's only been, 10 minutes. Whenever I go to a new hospital, I'm like, yeah, you guys are gonna love me by the time I leave here. I want to leave a mark so that people will know that I was there, and that is because I have learned that I should be treated like I deserve, and that I deserve to treat others like they deserve as well. But I can't just say that. I have to do that. I have to be that. I have to be that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know exactly what you mean with that sort of missing thing. It's like that's the impact you create, right? So it's not
Yes.
necessarily that no one else can't do what you're doing. It's more about she left a mark. She created an impact that stayed with us, no matter what
Yes.
that is.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, well, that brings us pretty much to a close. I have one more question for you. Um,
Okay.
and then if there's anything else that you want to add that we haven't discussed that you really want to share, I'd love to hear from you about that. But if a leader listening today wanted to lead with more purpose and connection starting tomorrow, what is the one behavior they would need to change first, and why?
Your ability to self reflect. As a leader, we're always course correcting. We are always striving to make the best decisions that we can with the information that we have. And I think that the best quality that we can have is to be able to reflect on our actions and the impact that we've had on other people, and recognize when it went as planned and when it didn't go as planned, and how we can be better in both of those situations. So whether everything went just like we wanted it to, how can I be better the next time? If it didn't go exactly how we wanted it to, how can I be better the next time? Um, but those kinds of course corrections will allow you to learn people better. They'll allow you to navigate situations more clearly, and you'll actually have more of a knowledge base, not just of yourself, but of your team.
I love that. I love that very much. And yeah, the self-reflection, the self-leadership is definitely the number one answer I get to this question. So thank you. So is there anything
Well, there we go.
is there anything else that you do want to share with the audience before we finish for today?
I think that was great. Just I appreciate you giving me the time to come on here and share our vision for the 144K Collective and share my story and spend a little time with you. It was great.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all of this. And I'll definitely put your details and also some details for the 144K Collective into the show notes so people can do a little bit of research and give $1 a day.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to staying connected.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Jen.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Beyond the Boardroom. I'm truly grateful to have you here. So if today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone who'd find it valuable. Your support helps us spread the message of purposeful, connected leadership even further. So until next time, take care, stay curious, and lead with heart.